Hello and good morning. Today our topic is to learn how to use Amazon Web Services to deploy our API application and our React application. I will start now screen sharing. So we will be using a system called AWS Educate, which is basically a student user account type to use Amazon Web Services. And the first thing what you should do is to go on here and click this yellow button, Join AWS Educate. You can navigate here with your browser, so avs.amazon.com/education/AWS Educate. And it will proceed to a form where you will need to fill in your information. And then you should have your AWS Educate account set up. So an AWS Educate is a Amazon run program which gives you annual credits, meaning this kind of virtual money, which you can then spend on Amazon Web Services. As in normally they are paid, so you have to pay for using them. But if you're using them through the AWS Educate system, you can pay those with these credits. And these credits are annually renewed. So every year you will get a new set of credits. And this AWS Educate is a different account type from this normal account. So here on the top right, you can see create an AWS account. If you choose this path, then you are creating a normal AWS account where you are going to have to give your credit card, and then you will be charged on the services what you create, even though they have a testing credit system for the first year. So join AWS Educate. It takes you to this kind of form. Then you should choose here the student. And then it's important that you list here all University of Applied Sciences, which is now our school. So that in that situation you will get more credits than if you are not a member of an institution which is a member in the AWS Educate program. So our school is now an institute member in this program, and for that reason you will get a slightly higher amount of credits. So you will need to fill in this information and then click on the next and to proceed, and that should get you through the process. Let's see how it looks like if I go through this first step. So this is now an estimate where you think you will be graduating. Okay, let's see what is the next step then. Okay, yeah, they are checking my email address. So I cannot proceed here. Let's do it so now that put a message to the chat when you have managed to create an account, so I can that way try to see that when can we continue. So the idea is that you would be following the process. So write to the chat when you are done. I will now pause the recording. So when you proceed through this phase, there is the review phase, which needs to be completed. So you can see the instructions from the video later on. I will put a document to Moodle which has these steps needed and the commands needed to create the web services what we are going to be creating and to configure them. So you can read it later on and then also copy the commands from there. So the document looks like this. And there are quite a few steps to go through. Here, if I scroll this down. So this is a somewhat complicated process, and what we are going to do is to create a virtual machine into the Amazon cloud, and then create a database server, then connect the virtual machine which is running our API application to the database server, and then set up the React application to connect to the API server. And here in this screen, or this image what is visible here, is visible the general logic of how the Amazon Web Services are operating. So they have this term VPC, Virtual Private Cloud, and you can have multiple VPCs. So they are essentially isolated network environments, and you can set network configuration so that it is possible to connect across the VPCs, so one VPC to another. But in our example, we will be operating inside a single VPC. So you can think about this VPC as a single network. Then inside this single VPC network, we will be creating these services. And here are two of those visible. So there is the virtual machine, which in Amazon terminology is now EC2, elastic computing. An instance means now a single, basically single computer. So for these EC2 instances, these cloud-based computers, you can then set up whatever operating system you like and then install whatever software you want. So we will be configuring our EC2 with a Linux-based operating system and then installing the software what we need, and that will include Git, Node.JS, and then our own application from GitHub. So the way how you deploy your application to the Amazon cloud and into an EC2 in most cases is through Git. So you will need to have your application somewhere in Git, in a Git repository, and then from that repository you will then deploy your application via Git clone to the EC2 server, and then you can start it there. Then we will have a MySQL-based database in operation. Now in Amazon or in any this kind of cloud computing environment, there are many ways how you can deal with these databases. It would be totally possible of installing a MySQL server application inside a virtual machine inside the EC2 machine, but in most cases it doesn't make much sense, and it is much better to have a dedicated MySQL machine. And again, this would be possible to do so that you create a new EC2 instance and then install the MySQL server there. But we will be using a service called Amazon RDS, Relational Database Service, which is Amazon hosted database service. So, and this is just one of the basically hundreds of different Amazon services available. And all of these cost different money. So every time when you are deciding what your application infrastructure should be looking like, you have to benefit the pros and cons in each situation, and then decide what is the best route for you. In this case, I like this RDS because it is a fairly simple to set up, and then in the long run, if you will be running an application, the RDS service offers all kinds of features which are not so trivial to set up if you would be configuring everything manually. Features such as automatic backups and then these backup servers in case something goes wrong, and general database maintenance. Okay, so we have this our isolated network, this VPC, and inside that network we have these instances running. And then there is one more important thing to consider is this term security group. And security group is basically firewall settings. So for all these instances in your VPC, you will need to define, and you can define a security group, so firewall settings. And with that security group, you can configure that who can connect to this instance and from where, using which port and protocol, and where can connections be made from this instance. So how we will configure our application is exactly what is visible here in this image, is that we will have only a single path from public internet, and that takes to our EC2 instance, which is now running our API. And then our database will be connected from the EC2 instance in a private manner, so that the database is not open to the public internet. So there is no possibility of connecting to the database from public internet. And that will add a certain level of security to our application structure. Right, so this is what we will be doing. So we will create a Linux-based server where we install our API. Then we will create a database and then configure all the settings, so the firewalls, so that we can connect to our API server, and the API server can connect to the database. And then as a separate exercise, we will set up our React application to be hosted elsewhere. And then if your React application is depending on your API, so then a connection would be made from there, and then a response would be made like that. It is also possible to configure, of course, the API server here, so that it would be hosting the React application, but that is not something which we will not be doing today. Okay, so any questions about this general logic of things?
Yeah, just to make it clear. So the database sits there on the Amazon, and then the backend API sits on the EC2.
Yes.
And then your React sits somewhere else.
Yes.
Okay, cool. That's
and now the EC2, what it basically means that it is a computer, a server computer, which you can configure. You can set the hardware resources, you can set the operating system, and then you can install whatever applications you want. So this EC2 is a general purpose computer. It is not in any way a dedicated web server or something like this. It is basically the same thing as if you would go to your local computer shop and then decide what type of hardware you will be buying, and then you would take it to your home and then install whatever operating system and whatever software you would like. So you are not buying a web server you are buying general computing capability. And that is what EC2 is.
Yep, thanks.
And then the Amazon RDS is a database service which Amazon is hosting. And when you are starting to use it, you will configure it and decide what type of database you want to be running, and then configure the parameters for it. And then the security group means that it's basically a firewall setting which configures who can access this instance and where can requests be made from this instance. So that is the general logic. But if you get confused about this terminology, just ask, because they are not very easy to grasp, at least on the first time. Okay, so when you get your Educate account, you then should be able to sign in. And I repeat that you must sign in from here. You cannot go through to the general AWS account. You must go through the AWS Educate portal. And it looks like this. You give your username and password, and then you can sign in. Now, I don't know exactly how it looks like, since I am enrolled here as a teacher. I don't know how it looks like for students. Most likely it is pretty similar. Here is some general kind of dashboard and some news and featured content visible. But what we are really interested in is that how can we access the Amazon Web Services directly without any kind of preset classrooms or something like this. In AWS Educate, it is possible for the educator to create some kind of classrooms and then have some kind of exercises there. And then that classroom will pre-configure some AWS resources for the students, and then let them play with them. But in this case, we will be going straight to the AWS management console and create everything ourselves, because that is basically the situation in which you are if you are creating something on your own. So what you will need to do is that you will need to find this AWS account menu option here, and then click this green button which says AWS Educate Starter Account. And it will show that, okay, how many credits do you have? So basically it says that I have $135 remaining, and those will expire at this time, and then they will be renewed automatically annually. So I click there, then it goes to a view like this. This Vocareum is now the name of the company which is running this AWS Educate operation on behalf of Amazon. At least that's the way how I understand it. So once you have clicked on the button so that you are here, then what you need to do is that you will need to click here on this AWS console. And here is an important thing which they are reminding. So as I said, all these resources what you create to AWS, all those cost money. When you are playing with this AWS Educate account, you have this credit money which is being given to you. But all the services what you still create, they still consume this play money, these credits. So if you set up some services there, they will start costing some money, and they will be subtracted from your credit balance. When your credit balance goes to zero, then you are out of this play money. You cannot create any more systems. If you do this on your own account, then that's it. There is no way how I can get you more credits. All what you can do is then to switch to the real Amazon account and start paying for the services on your own. So to avoid of running out of the credits, what you should do is that you should close the services when you do not need them anymore. Right? it makes no sense to be paying for, let's say, Netflix or HBO subscription if you are not watching them, right? So if you are paying something like 30 euros per month for a service which you are not using, it doesn't make much sense. So it's the same with these AVS credits. So remember to shut down the service what you create when they are not in use. So when a course ends, you should go and shut down whatever you have created so that they do not eat all your credits. So this is an important thing to remember. And depending on the on what kind of services you create, these credits are super easy to eat up to zero to be consumed. If you decide to create some very powerful instances, so you set up some very high-end computing capabilities for your EC2, for example, and if the purpose is just for laughs, then it will eat up your credits very fast. So I do not suggest of doing that. Okay, so click on the AVS console, then you will get to the actual Amazon Web Services. This is the actual Amazon Web Services, what you would be seeing if you log in from a normal Amazon account. Okay, so the first thing what we will be doing is actually I'm going to be following this document, so I will share this link now to the chat so that you can see it. This link will also be available in the Moodle later on. But if you want to open the same document, I will put it to the chat now, as it is difficult to keep that document visible all the time. So if you want to see it, you can open it on your own. Okay, so first thing what we are going to be doing is that we will be creating a security group for our EC2 machine. And the idea for this security group is to allow incoming HTTP requests and allow incoming SSH connection. So we will be creating our firewall setting, the security group configuration, so that it allows HTTP requests, because I am creating now an API server. And then I'm going to allow also SSH connection to it, because I need to be able to open a terminal connection to the machine so that I can configure it from the command line. So here I go to the EC2 control panel, and as you can see, there is quite a lot of these Amazon services available. Today we will be only using 2 of those, EC2 and RDS. So mastering these services is really a big task. Okay, here I am now in the EC2 dashboard, and it shows that I am using now the following resources here in the US East North Virginia region, meaning that I am now dealing with a data center located here. They have data centers all over the world, as you can see, but this AVS Educate only gives you access to this US East 1, which is located in North Virginia. So that's the reason why we are using that one. If we would be creating some service for, let's say, for European users, then of course it would be better to locate it in Europe to minimize any network connection time. If we are creating something for Asia, then creating a service somewhere here makes more sense, and so on. And then they are showing that what is the level of this service, what is the service health of their data center, is it operational? Then they have these zones, availability zones. which means that they have some kind of isolation of separate parts in the data center, and they are separated so that if some part of the data center goes down or is under maintenance, for example, this section A, US East 1A, then the remainder of these then should be operational. So this is the concept of AZ, availability zone. And if you are building a real application which is going to have some users, then it will probably make sense for you to consider deploying your application so that it is deployed to multiple availability zones. Because in that situation, if one zone is out for some reason, then the another zone is still operating, and then your application is still available. But if you are running your application only in one availability zone, and then if that one goes down, then your application is down. Okay. Then here on the left there is this are these settings for EC2 in general. So here is where I can deal with these instances. There is possible of having this kind of templates or images, which means that once you have configured an EC2 instance, you can save it, and then you can restart an identical instance later on. So this is very useful if you are, for example, if you need to start identical web servers, for example, for some reason, then configuring them manually doesn't make much sense. Instead, it's better to configure it once and then create an instance image out of it, and then you can set up a new instance with just a few clicks. Then this elastic block store is basically the hard disk of these EC2 instances. Then here is the network and security settings. Here are the security groups, which are basically these firewalls. Elastic IPs means that you can have these IPs, but you can then connect to your instances, so that even if you switch some computing resources, the IP still remains the same, if that is something of importance to you. Then here is load balancing. So the concept of load balancing is that if you have, so the concept of a load balancer is Notepad as a drawing space. So here is your internet cloud, let's say, and here is one user or users. You have maybe multiple of those. All of them are connecting to your application through the internet. And now if your application is here running in a single EC2 in a single EC2 server, when you get enough users, this EC2 server will get maxed out on its capability to deal with these incoming requests. So that is just a fact of life. If you send enough requests, the computer here in the EC2 cannot process them, and it will reach its limits. And then processing those requests will start taking time, and it is visible for the user, so that there is a more or less large delay on accessing the application. So what you can do is that you can then create new or more of these EC2 servers. So instead of having a single server, web server, you suddenly have one or more. You might have 2, you might have 3, or you might have 15 identical web servers running the same application, and then In that situation, what you need is that here in the front, you will need to have this green thing, which is now representing load balancing. So what will happen is that from the internet, there will be coming these requests to your load balancer. It will be receiving these requests, and then the load balancer knows that, okay, what is the capability of our web servers? Let's say that this one is at 80% of processing capacity. Here we have some instance only at 60% processing capacity. So when a new request comes in, it will direct the request here, and depending on the processing capability of each server instance, the load balancer splits or shares the load between the servers. As its name says, it is for load balancing. And then there is this auto scaling, which means that you can configure your system so that by default it might only be running, let's say, with one EC2 instance as a web server. And then if you start to get more users, then the auto scaling system will automatically create new web servers for you, so that you might have, by default, you might have only one. But then if suddenly you get lots and lots of users, then new server instances are created automatically on the fly to deal with the incoming requests. So that's what these things mean. And this is the reason why you should not have a database inside the same EC2 as you have your application. Because if you have your database now inside here, this orange box here, if this is not the database, for example, if you're using MySQL, for example, now if you create, this works just fine when you have a single EC2. You have the web application, and then you have the database running in the same computer. But then if you need to create a second web server instance, a second EC2 instance to deal with the incoming users, now you have two databases. You might have three databases, as many databases as you have EC2 servers. So how are you now going to synchronize the data between all these databases, which might come and go depending on what is your auto-scaling setting? So at one moment you might have one server, and then at the next moment, when there is a rush hour, you might have 15 new EC2 instances running, 15 databases. So it is totally impossible to deal with the data replication and synchronization, or not impossible, but very tedious to deal with that kind of system. So instead of having these databases here, so not that kind of approach, you have here a centralized database, maybe the RDS, and these EC2 servers are all connecting to the same database server, and then you can avoid then the matter of data synchronization and replication inside your dynamically created EC2 servers. Okay, so that's about the general terminology. Did it make any sense? So these things come into play when you have a real application which has or can have large number of users. Okay, but what we were going to do is that we were going to create the security group for our server. So, and the purpose was to create the security group, meaning the firewall for allowing incoming HTTP and SSH connections. So I'm going to give it a name, HTTP demo, description. What is the purpose of here? Then we can set the inbound rules and outbound rules. So inbound rules, the incoming requests. Outbound rules means rules for the outgoing requests. Here on the add rule, I'm going to choose that now HTTP is allowed, and the source, where is it allowed? From anywhere. Then second rule, that SSH connection is allowed, so that I can configure the EC2 instance and only from my IP. And now, since typically you are using dynamic IP, so that the IP what you have today is not the same what you have tomorrow. So you need to be aware that if you were able to connect to your server today and not able to do it tomorrow, it might be because you are using this my IP and your IP has changed. So my current IP is here, this one. It is reading it automatically. You could have allow anywhere, but then that's an added security vulnerability, because then anybody can try to access your SSH connection. So the security group can limit also that one. Okay, so these two rules, we are good to go. Then create security group. Now it has been created. Next step is to go to actually create the EC2 instance. Here, launch instance, not from template, but from a pure configuration. Here are now these images, what we can choose. There are different operating systems, as you can see, Red Hat Linux, SUSE Linux, Ubuntu Linux, Microsoft Windows Server. Then there are these Amazon images for some deep learning purposing, different Microsoft services, servers with SQL, and so on and so on and so on. So quite a lot of stuff. What I'm going to choose here is to choose this this one, Amazon Linux 2, AMI. Then you can select that what kind of processor architecture you want to be using, x86 processors or ARM processors. I'm going to choose the x86. It doesn't have any impact here. They might have different pricing levels on these depending on your CPU architecture. So if you are choosing architecture for some real application, you might want to see that what is the pricing difference between these. I don't recall the exact details. So I'm going to choose this one. Then an instance type. So here are different kind of hardware configuration. So here are general purpose computers, hardware configuration. Then I think there is some more compute optimized. So there is more CPU power than memory possibly. And then there are these GPU instances which have powerful graphical accelerators. So if you need to run calculations with large number of parallelism, then using a GPU instance might be worth it. Then you have these. This is something new. I have not seen this. Some new custom chips for machine learning purposes. I have not seen this. This is something new, and so on. So there is quite a lot of stuff here, as you can see. And they have these types, and then they have the amount of vCPUs, so how many processors there is per instance, what is the memory, what kind of storage that it can be used, and what is the network performance. So if you go see here, this is the one which we are going to choose, this T2 Micro. It has one virtual CPU and 1 GB of memory, and low to moderate network performance. But then you can, for example, choose here which have 96 CPUs and 192 GB of memory, or even more, 512 GB of memory, 128 CPUs. And if you choose something like this, and you don't have any purpose for it, then the end result will be that you will be losing your credits quite fast, since all these cost different amounts. Yeah, it's not showing the costs here, so you should check out the pricing before you choose anything. But this one is just fine. It's T2 micro for us. Next, configure instance delays. Now here what you need to do is to make sure that you have this default VPC. So when you create your account, you will have one VPC, so meaning one virtual private cloud, and it's the name of default. So make sure that you are having that one. Then here is auto assign public IP. Do you want it or not? Enable or disable. So we want to have a web server, so we want to have a public IP in our computer, and that's it then. Then storage, we don't need to have any other storage, and now tags, configure security groups, and now here is the part where you set the security group what this EC2 will be created with. You can modify this later on, and it's possible to here also create a new, but we will select an existing one and select the one which you just created. I named it with this. So I'm going to choose that one. It shows here the rules what we have created. So HTTP from anywhere and SSH from my IP only. Okay, review and launch. Here we can review it, and if we are happy, and click launch. Now it's going to ask that how do we want to connect to it, and the connection, the SSH connection to the EC2 instances are done with so-called public and private key SSH connection. So to connect to the SSH with SSH connection to the EC2, you will need to have the private key file available, and here is now possible for you to choose to use an existing key pair if you already have some key pairs, or you can create a new key pair, or you can proceed without a key pair, but then you cannot connect to your EC2 instance. So what you should do, and if you have a new account, you can only create a new key pair. So this key pair is now the key what you will need to use when you connect to your EC2 with SSH. So it is totally analogous to a real physical key, what you will need to have to proceed through a locked door. If you do not have the key, then you cannot proceed through that door, meaning that without the key, you cannot connect your EC2 instance. Okay, key pair name, I'm going to name here Web Frameworks Demo Key. And it says that it will download the private key file called PEM, store it in a secure and accessible location. You will not be able to download the file again after it's created. So this is a one-time opportunity only. If you lose your key, there is no way how you can access your EC2 again. And if you lose your key, I cannot help you in any way to connect to your EC2 if you would lose it and then ask for help. Only possibility then is to delete your EC2 and create a new EC2 instance with a new key, and then keeping the key available. So now it downloads, and this is my key. This is the only time when I can access this one. Now it is up to me to keep track of this key, where it is, and to what it is used to connect. So this is very important concept here. Okay, now I have the key which I can use to access the EC2, and click launch. Now it will create the new computer, and it will get done in a quite short time. Here I have already an existing EC2. I'm going to delete that one. Terminate. Okay, refresh. Okay, running. Here is my new instance. I can also give it a name. It keeps deleting it. Okay, so now we have the computer running. It is not doing anything yet, but to get it doing something, we need to connect to it. And now they're going to be using an application called PuTTY. This is an SSH client to connect to it. You can use other SSH clients as well. Whatever SSH clients you are using, you must know how to configure the connection so that you are connecting with the key. If we are using PuTTY, this PEM format will not be working, and we will need to convert it with an application called PuTTY-gen. Here is the PuTTY key generator. I'm going to choose this load an existing private key file. Now I need to know where my file is. Where did it go? It should be in the downloads. Yeah. It is not visible because by default it is showing PPK files. This is a PEM file. It is a different key format. I need to go here, all files. And here is another file. Now I can load. This was in OpenSSH SSA2 format. And as it says, to use this key with PuTTY, you need to use save private key command to save it in PuTTY's own format. Okay. Here is the save private key button. We could set a passphrase, meaning a password, to the key as well, but I'm not going to do that one now. And now I can give a name. What is the name of this? So we are converting the key from PEM format to PPK format so that it is compatible with this PuTTY. If you are using some other SSH client, then this step is maybe not necessary, depending on the client and how it is dealing with these keys. Okay, that has been now done. Next step is to use the key to connect to this EC2. And to connect to that one, we need to see the connection information. Here we have the details. Here we have public IP address. Click, copied. Now I'm going to go to PuTTY, where I want to connect. It is that IP address. And then with the key, so I'm going to set here, private key for authentication, browse. Here is my key which I just created with PuTTY again, open, and that's it. Open. Now it's making an SSH connection to my newly created EC2. PuTTY is notifying that this is the first time when I am connecting there. Do I trust it? Yes. Now I need to give a username, what I'm going to be using to log in. With these EC2 instances, the username is always EC2-user. This is noted in the document that you have as instructions. Okay, now I am connected to the machine. Now, what I'm going to start doing is to start installing the necessary software so that I can clone my application from my GitHub, and then so that I can run it. So I will need to install Git, and then I will need to install Node.js. before anything else, I will execute this command from here so that it applies all updates. Yes. So the Yum application, what this is now using is the package manager application for this Amazon Linux. It is now downloading or updating those packages which have been updated since the image has been created. Takes a while. Okay. Next step is to install Git. So sudo yum install Git and -y for automatic yes. Now Git is installed. Next thing is to install Node.js, and that's a quite complicated command. It is listed in the instructions document. We are using CURL to install application called NVM Node Version Manager. That has been done. So, and then start to use NVM to install Node. It is now installing Node version 14. Okay, so now we have the application, Git application installed. We have the Node installed. Now we can get our application. I'm going to use as a demo application. I'm going to use this Express API demo, which is a familiar repository what we have already used previously. So this is which has these dogs. It has two branches. Has the master branch which is is with the in-memory saving, and then the Mysql integration, which has the database connector for MySQL connection. Okay, so how do I clone this one? Here, copy, and oops, it takes only the address. So git clone and then the GitHub address. That has been done. Now I have the folder there, Express API demo. Go in there and let's check out the MySQL integration, since that is what we will be going for. So git check out, it was the MySQL integration is the branch name. Okay, and then now let's install the Node dependencies with npm install. Okay, now we have our application there ready to go. So now we could connect to it, but if you remember that where does this start, to which port, if we see the application, it starts in port 4000. And the default port for HTTP is now port 80. And in our security group settings, we only allowed HTTP connection. So that is a connection to port 80. If you try to access port 4000, it will not work because the security group is preventing it. And it would be better if we could access our application without specifying the port, so that it would use the normal default port 80. Now, it is not a good idea to start a Node application directly into port 80 due to the security reasons, because in AVS EC2 running on port 80 application requires admin privileges. And if you give admin privileges to your web application, then that is a pretty dangerous situation, because if there is any problem with your web application, and somebody finds those problems and then exploits those problems, then they can execute code and commands with admin privileges. So that can be a very, very bad situation from a security point of view. So what we will be doing is to start this Node application in port 4000, but we will not expose the port 4000 to public. Instead, we will start a small web server application to operate as a proxy in port 80, and that will then forward the request to our Node application in port 4000. So the idea is that the proxy application will receive the requests in port 80 and then forward them to our application running in port 4000. So that adds a bit of added security. And now this proxy application is called NGINX. You can also use it as a normal web server. So here is the command to install it. Now the NGINX has been installed. Now to actually use it as a proxy for our Node application, we need to configure it. So we will modify configuration files. These are text-based files, like everything in Linux. So I'm going to use the nano text editor to modify those. The configuration file is here in etc nginx conf. Okay, so here is the configuration file for our nginx application. Now what we need to do is that we need to add here a setting called location. And then we will need to put here the configuration commands. I could write these commands, but these are already available in the instruction document, so you can just copy and paste them. They are available here. There is a screenshot of how it should look like, and then here the commands are available for copy. So I will copy them from there and paste. Takes them with some spaces, so let's clean those spaces away. Notice on the first line where it says that proxy pass and then there is the IP. So that is now the address where you are passing the requests. So IP 127.0.0.1 localhost, and here is now the port. Now you must know the port where you are starting your Node application. With this example application, as you can see, I'm now here in the GitHub. It shows that the port is now 4000. So I need to set the 4000 here. If your application is starting at port 3000, then use the port 3000 there. Okay, then we are going to save it. Here you can see Ctrl O to write out. I press Ctrl O. Yes, this file name, enter. Ctrl X to exit, like so. Then I can start the nginx proxy. So sudo nginx. There's some problem in my configuration. Let's see. Why doesn't it not allow it? Oh yeah, there's a problem. It should be location like like so. Let's see, does it work now? No. What's the problem now? Yeah, I think I put it to wrong location. Yeah, yes. So it should be inside here, this server, not outside. Here is the correct location. Then we can delete these. Save. Again. Okay, now it's working. Now we can see that it's working, or verify that it is working by, here is our public IP address. If I make a request there, yes, it's working because I get now an NGINX error. So it means that NGINX is now, it is now at least running because we get this error. So that is a good thing. So now what we could do is that we could start our Node application, and actually let's start it. I'm going to just again switch to master branch. It has the in-memory storage. So Node, let's try this out. So now in Node index.js. Oh, move there. Is this using this one? Do npm install for this branch as well. Okay, now I have the in-memory version of the Node application running. And I have here this, for example, /hello. So now if I put here, yes, now my API code is running. I have the dogs. I can also access those. There is some dog information. If I use Postman, I can check out. Here is this address. Let's send a new dogs. Then I remember it was name and then an image. What was expected? Like so. Yeah. Now it added status 201 created. Now if I refresh here, and here is now the dog. So now the application is running on the Amazon server, and with the in-memory storage, which is evident that if I now close the application here, and if I restart it, now if I refresh the request, this test dog here is not anymore there. It's now vanished because the data was stored only in the application memory. So the next step would be to make the database connection. Let's have a lunch break at 11:30. So I'm going to continue there now without a break, so we can get the database thing working. By the way, have you received yet any confirmation messages from the AWS Educate?
No, not yet.
Okay. Yeah, it probably then takes some time. We can then go back and view this video later on to see the process and then read the instruction document. Okay, so the next step is to get the database working, I'm going to now again switch to the Mysql integration part. And now the thing what is here is that here is now this db.js, which looks like this. So what we need to do is that to configure here to this database connection information, we need to modify it so that it has then the address of our database here in the Amazon cloud. But before we can do that, we need to create the database. And to do that, we need to go back to the Amazon console here. And now outside of this EC2, since we are going to create a database by using this RDS service here. And we are going to use this RDS to create now a MySQL-based database. Here is this create database. They are here promoting their own version of MySQL and PostgreSQL compatible database called Amazon Aurora. Apparently, it is cheaper than running in MySQL. And they boast quite a lot of impressive features there, but we are going to go with MySQL. I have not tested on connecting this to this Amazon Aurora type of database from Node.js. MariaDB is another database from the creators of the MySQL, since MySQL was bought by Oracle. So the core, I think the core team or key members have then left, and then they have created a MariaDB. So this is another open source. And then PostgreSQL is also totally valid. All of these are good options for a database. They are all relational databases. And here I'm going to choose MySQL community version. Then here is now the MySQL version. Now the connector, what I'm using in my Node application, is only supporting the MySQL 5.7. So I make sure I'm going to use that one. I would need to use a different Node.js connector library to connect to version 8. So I'm going to choose the 5.731. Then what kind of template? These will pre-configure some of the settings. I'm going to choose this free tier. This is good for developing new applications. These, for example, this production version sets that, okay, it's high availability and fast. So Amazon will make sure that there is always a database available, and they will configure it so, but that costs money. So they're going to go with the cheap free tier version, which is just fine. Then we could give some identifier. Here it's database 2. Here is an important part. What is your root username? By default, it's admin. What is your password? This is again something what you will need to remember. If you don't remember it, then you are in trouble again. I'm going to put admin123, which is a password which I don't recommend to use, but for this demo purposes, this is okay. Then what is the instance size? So what will happen is that this RDS will in fact create an EC2 instance behind the scenes, and then configure it so that it works throughout this RDS portal, so to speak. You could configure here different database instances. The more users, more complex queries you would have, more data, the more power you would need for your database. But this micro is just fine. Just fine for here. Then it asks that what kind of storage it should use. General purpose SSD disks. These are again affecting the pricing. What is the database size? 20 gigabytes. Default setting, okay. Storage auto-scaling, okay. If it would increase the storage size if I'm running out of it. Okay, then here is for the availability. So multi-AZ deployment would mean that it is not available for this development type of template, but if you use the production, for example, then you could have a standby instance, meaning another database instance on the hold on a different availability zone, ready to take over if this database goes down or if this zone goes down. But that's not an option here. Then VPC thing here. Okay, again, make sure that you are using the same VPC. If you are using different VPCs, then you will need to configure the networking settings for those, and at least to me, it's a pretty complicated process. Then how do you want to authenticate for the database? Password, it's just fine. Additional configuration. Here, I recommend that you would write the initial database name. If you don't do this, then you will need to do it manually, because once the database server is created, it does not have any databases inside. So you would need to log in there and then create a new database. But if you do it here, then you don't have to do that manually. For this application, it's just fine. I'm going to put the database name to demo. Then do I want to have automatic backups? Yes or no? How long those backups should be kept? I'm going to skip this part. Do I want to have some kind of monitoring and logs? You could configure all those. And that is what we do not need now. And then it says that what is the estimated monthly costs. And this is now the free tier. We can have it for 12 months for free, as long as we stay within these parameters. Okay, when everything is ready, we click on the Create Database. Oops, now Chrome is warning me about something. Now it takes a while before it is created. I here have an old database, so I actually don't need anymore. I can delete this one. So here is the database 2, which is being created. This takes a while. Let's see how long does it take. So the next step would then, when this gets started, we would then from here, this is now the information panel on the database which we are creating. So here we would check out that what is the endpoint address. We would copy this one, and then we would go here to our Node application and set the endpoint address here. And then we would set here a database user. It would make more sense to create a database user without all the admin rights. But for this demonstration, we are going to skip that one. So I'm going to just put here user is admin, and my password was admin123. This will need to be waited so that the database is created. Here is now the database name, and it is the same demo which I set there in the when I created the database. So when it's created, there will be automatically a single database with demo inside, with demo name. So that is a positive thing. Let's see if we refresh. No, it's still creating. So this takes a while. Okay, while we're waiting for the database to be created, we can think about that how we can then deploy our React application. There is some good information here in the Create React App homepage. So not this one. Here, create React app.dev. So here is on the building your application. Here is last is the creating a production build. So what you will need to do is that you will need to run npm run build command for your React application. If it's working based on this create React app, then this will create a new directory called build, and it will contain all the HTML, CSS, and JavaScript files needed for the React application. And then you can decide how do you want to host it. Now, what you need is that it's only static hosting, so you need to host only these HTML and CSS and JavaScript files. So because of that, there is many different options. You can also see here from the deployment that what kind of options they have. So what you need is that you need to have a web server which is hosting these files. There are many ways how you can do that. It's possible to use, for example, a Node-based server called Serve. It is possible to configure the Express to host the application, or it's possible to also use some web hotel or AVS also to host this kind of static content. And this is what we will be doing. So we will be using a feature of the Amazon to host simple static content without having to write any code. And in Amazon, there is a feature called S3, which is a file storage solution, S3. So this allows you to store some files. And there is this terminology of bucket. So they are kind of like folders here in the Amazon cloud. And what you can do is that you can configure a bucket to be a web server hosting so that those files are available from a public URL, and that is what we will be doing. Let's see if this database is yet completed. Okay, yeah, it's now completed. It's available here. Now we can see here the endpoint. So how we get here is from the Amazon RDS dashboard. We see the databases. It's now this database 2. We click there. Here is this endpoint. It's now this one. I copy that address, and then I go here to my API configuration file dp.js and set it there. like so. Then I can start, let's see, Node index.js. No, what's the problem? Cannot find module MySQL. Did I not execute npm install for this? And it's not working. I have forgotten to do one thing. I have forgotten to set a security group for the database. So the database is not currently accepting any connections. So that is something what I should do. But let's keep a lunch break now, and we'll continue at 12:15. We didn't have any break here in between. So I break now, and then we continue at 12:15. Okay, let's continue. So far we have created an EC2 instance, installed Node.js there, installed Git, cloned our application from GitHub, installed nginx proxy, and we have configured the security group setting for our EC2. So the EC2 is ready to go. Then we have created the database server with the RDS service, and we have tried to connect from our EC2 to the RDS based database server, but were unable to. And the reason for this was that we did not have any security group setting, meaning that the database server does not accept our connection request. And here I see that I have expired my session to the Amazon AWS Educate, so I need to log in again or start a new session with the link provided. With only about 2 hours. What is the session duration? So you see this quite often. So back to the AWS console. So now what I need to do is to go on to the EC2 setting and then now create a new security group setting here. Create security group, and I'm going to name it Web Frameworks DB Secu group. What this does allows EC2 connection. And now we need to configure the inbound rules so that we configure that who can connect to our database server. And what type of connection. So the type of connection, we're going to put here that a MySQL connection is allowed. And then from there, we keep here the custom, and then we can choose that we want to allow connections from another security group to this security group. So here is my Web Frameworks HTTP demo security group, and the EC2 instance which we are using is now using this security group. So we said that we allow connection from this security group to this group which we are creating, which will be used by the database server. Okay. Create. Now the security group has been created. Now we must assign this group to the our RDS service. We go back to the RDS here. And then we need to go and modify our database instance here. And here is an action. I think it was here, or was it in the modify? Yeah, I think it is here in the modify. So now Network and security here. This is what we forgot to do when we created the database. So now here is our web frameworks DB security group. This is the one which is just created, so I'm going to choose that one. Everything else is good. Continue. And when to apply immediately. Now, okay. Now let's see. Now we can try to reconnect with the MySQL connector from our Node.js application. Yes, it's working, no errors. So now we have our Express-based application is connecting from the EC2 to the database server in RDS. Now I can test. I'll make a request of the dogs. There are no dogs. I'm going to post a dog created. Now let's refresh here in the browser. Okay, it's there. Then if we stop the application, we can restart it, make a new request, and the data is still there. So this is now evident that the data is stored in the database. But then if the Node application is not running, we try to access, we get the nginx error. So we would need to keep the Node application running all the time. And now if we close this SSH connection, the Node application will shut down. And it is not very practical to keep SSH connection open just for the sake of keeping the application running. So we need to start the Node application to so-called background mode so that it stays on. And we're going to do that with something known as Node PM2. This tool what we will be using. So npm install pm2-g. So let's take this into use. npm install pm2-g, so globally. Now, then I'm going to use pm2 start, and now our index.js, so our entry point. And what pm2 will do is that it will start it, but it will be in the background process. Like so. Now it has started it. It is saying that, okay, it is now running this one here. And we don't have to keep, and here in the terminal, it's not even showing that the application is running like it was previously. So we are not in a Node session. But here, when we check out the application, it is responding just fine. So now the PM2 is keeping our application alive, even if we close our SSH connection. Then there is a command pm2 save, which is saved as a process list. So now it can be easily restarted. If you would like to restart the thing, for example, when the EC2, if it's restarted, so if the server is restarted, it would automatically restart with pm2 startup command. Here would be the command which is needed to modify the env so that it is automatically started. So this could be executed if you would like to start it automatically. And then if you need to stop the PM2 for some reason, PM2 kill, and it is stopped. Now if I try to access, we are again at error situation. And PM2 start index and back online. Okay, so now our API server is running. And our API server address is this one. So this is the IP address where it can be reached. Now, if you would have a client application which would need to connect to your API, then you would need to use this IP address as the address. All right, so now we have used the EC2 to start up a Node.JS Express server, which is running our API, and the RDS to start up a database, which the EC2 then connects and communicates with. So do you have any questions at this moment? Why we have done something or what was happening?
The PM2, that just allows you to run the server in the background and then close out the SSH connection.
Yes.
And that will continue to run. While
yes, so yeah. I can close this SSH connection now, and the Node application, our Express application, is still running. As you can see here, I can refresh and it is working. So it doesn't shut it down like it would be closed if you are just using the simple node command to start a node-based application.
Yeah, that seems good.
Okay, so the next thing then to see is that how to deploy the React application. And as I said, there are many ways. You could, in the Express, you could host it here in the Create React App documentation. That solution is demonstrated here. So we could use the static middleware to host it with the Express server. Then you could also install a node-based web server called Serve, for example, or you can use any other mechanism what you might have at your disposal to host normal HTML files. So the React client application is just a normal HTML-based application, and it does not need any special configuration from the server, just so that it works like you would host any HTML file and the resources that go with it. Now, what I'm going to do is that I'm going to use this S3 Scalable Storage of the Amazon, because they also allow the capability of hosting those files that are stored, hosting them through a built-in web server. So first thing is to do here is to create a new bucket. So this bucket is kind of like a folder. I click here. Then I have to give some bucket name, and this has to be now DNS compliant, meaning that the name will be visible in the URL. So domain name server compliant, and not end in a dash or period. And then I'm going to put some random string here, because these names, bucket names, they are now globally shared with all Amazon users. So by putting some random numbers here at the end, I hope to be sure that there is not any name conflict with an existing bucket. It will warn me if there is if that is the case. Then there is some versioning and access logging. Do I want to have some access logging? No, we can skip those. By default, all public access is blocked. But now if we want to host our files as in a web server, they of course need to be available. So we deselect that one. there is a confirmation that, are you absolutely sure that yes, I acknowledge this one, that they are going to be public. They make sure that, do you know what you are doing? Yes, I hope so. And then I go and click create bucket. So this is now my bucket where I can host something. Okay, then I go here to the properties of this bucket. Here are these properties. This is what we want: static website hosting. A static website is such which does not require any server-side technologies. So it is simply hosting some files such as HTML, CSS, or JavaScript, and no server-side or functionality is required. That is what we have in our React application. All server-side aspects are handled by the API part. And then I click there, use this bucket to host a website. I can give here now what is the index document, meaning that when I access this URL, here it is visible that what will be the public URL. When I access this one, what document will be loaded. Index.html is the one what we want. And then save. Okay. Now we need also the files what we are going to host. So now I have, what I'm hosting my API is about those dogs. So if I recall correctly, I had, let's see which React application I'm going to host. I think here in Web Frameworks, React Intro, there is this Ajax with dogs, this application. This application, I think it's loading some dog information and then displaying it. So this one will be just fine. Here I have an address to localhost. So now they will not be coming from localhost, but from here, from this. This is my API address. So I need to modify that one. But in any case, I will be using this now as a test application. So here, let's see git pull. If I don't have any modifications, okay, there was something. And then 12 Ajax with dogs. Now I'm going to modify it a little bit. Here is my application, React application. I'm going to modify that where it's going to make the data request. So the server address will be my EC2 server IP, which is here. This is the IP which I earlier copied from the EC2 panel. So I'm going to put that one here. Like so. Okay, so this is a very simple application. It simply makes the request when it starts, sets this state to the dogs here, and then here it just asks who let the dogs out. This is a text, and then there is a dogs is an array, so we map over the array and print some text. And the image, if there is an image. Okay, so now when I, this like so. Now my application is ready to be published, this React application. I go here, npm run build. Here we can see this command is available. npm run build will execute this command. And when I execute it here, a new folder will be created called build, and all the HTML, CSS, and JavaScript files will be located there. So that is the production version of this React application. Yeah, I need to run npm install first. I don't have any node modules here. So that needs to be done before that. So I will run the npm run build, and then I will upload the whole contents of the build folder to the Amazon S3 bucket, which I just previously created, and then that's it. Oh, this takes a while. Okay. There are some old dependencies should be fixed. Let's see. Automatic updates with npm. So npm install read the version from the package log.json, and it's a quite old example, this one. So there are some old versions which have been updated since, and there are lots of vulnerabilities have been reported. So 42,000 low priority, 21 moderate, and 13 high vulnerabilities. So the npm audit fix will get updated versions, and then it will update the package log file, and then make a commit of this package log file, so that these errors do not show in the future again. There's also something about core.js. Oh, did it hang up? I think here the problem is that the React scripts is now at 3.1.2 here in my package, and the React Create app has moved on, so I would need to update this one as well with a newer version. Let's see, what is the React scripts? What is the latest version? Version 3.4.13. 3.4.3 I'm running. I was running the earlier one, but now it has been updated. So maybe I will make a commit here. Okay, but now the packages have been updated, and I should be able to run npm run build. And now, when I run that command, a build folder should appear there. As it does, and it is now creating this kind of production build. Dimitri is asking, do we have some time at the end of the lessons to ask some questions in the project? Yes, this example will be finished in a couple of minutes. Okay, so now our React application is now here. it has been built for production here in this build folder. So there is the index.html. It looks like this. As you can see, it has been minimized. So there are no useless line breaks or tabs or whatever, or no long variable names in the JavaScript. Everything has been minimized to be as short as possible. So there is that one. Here are now our JavaScript files. Everything what we have declared as a dependency to our project is now there, and all of our source code is there. So now what we're going to do is that we're going to go to the S3 here, upload an object. We click here, upload. Here we can drag and drop. I'm going to go now. Where is my file? Here, here, and here, and here. So these are my static files from the build folder. This is the result of executing npm run build. They are production ready. So I'm going to drag and drop them here. Click upload. Now, if everything went okay, I should be able to access them with the static website hosting. But before I can do that, I need to set some permissions so that it can be accessed. And I'm going to use this bucket policy setting, which is a JSON-based policy language. This is general in AWS. I have here in the instruction document here. So here is a bucket policy text which you can copy and paste here directly. Like so. Only thing what you need to modify is that which resource this is targeting. And you can get the resource if you go here. Here is the bucket ARN. So this is the unique resource identifier here in the Amazon. I'm going to click here, copy, go back, and put it here, like so, and click save. So this allows public read access to the bucket contents. Okay, now I should be able to access this one. Here is now the endpoint address. Okay, so here is my React application now. It is making a request. So if you see, it is making a request to to the server here, to the API, and gets a dog with the name test. And here is an image test image URL. So the idea was that I take a dog image. So we have the image there. Let's take the address, and then if I go to Postman and put the proper URL image there. Hopefully it works. Let's see. Yes, it works on standalone. Okay, create a new dog with the Postman. And where is my application? Not here, not here, here. And now there is the skipper dog, which I just added with the Postman to my API. And there is the URL. So now it works. So this was just one of the possible options how you can host your your React application. It is not the only one. Just in my opinion, it is pretty convenient way. But you could just as well do it by Express hosting or by creating a second EC2, for example, and then host the React application from there, or from the same EC2 as what you have in with the API, or many other solutions. Yeah, so that's it. We have hosted React application and API, and the database is working. So we have created a full application with front end and back end, and it is now hosted at the public URL. So having an application in a public URL was a requirement in the created exercise. And this is the way how you can do it with Amazon Web Services. Okay, so any questions about this S3 thing? So we created a bucket, configured from the properties to use static website hosting, uploaded our create React app production build content, and then used this bucket policy to set the public access rights. This bucket policy thing, in my opinion, is the most uncomfortable thing of using this S3, since at least I don't know any other way of to set a public access than to do it with this JSON-based bucket policy, and this is not very straightforward to read and understand. There should be some kind of user interface option, in my opinion. Maybe this make public, maybe it would work. I don't know. Okay, so now if you have some questions about the exercise, then we can discuss about those as well. Tobias is asking that has anyone got confirmation? Yeah, it will maybe take some while then, since it was not an instant.
If you don't mind, I'm asking using the voice. I had actually two questions. One of them is very dumb because sadly I lost the link you gave us for the API where we could copy the data for the application. I remember you gave us the link for Charger's API. If you could very nicely give the link again, so this time I do not lose it, I will just store it safely. And the second question, so now...
Yeah, so the data what you can get is from here, from the open charge map. They have an API address here, so here you can, this is the way you can use it. API documentation. Here is their API documentation, and then you can read it from here. Here is an example. Example here. Then you can put these parameters, country code US, FI, and then, for example, 20 results, and then here you would have now information on 20 charges.
Yes, this is very useful. And another thing I wanted to ask, a bit more specific about technical part. Is there a way you can recommend to listen to a variable in JavaScript, except for the only solution I found yet, which sounds a little bit ineffective, is basically setting an interval and running a function that compares this variable to its old version and checks if it changes. But I think that setting an interval for every half a second or every second is inefficient. So is there any way to listen to the variable? except for this very weird approach.
Well, I have never had the need to do that. So my first question is that what are you trying to accomplish?
I'm trying to accomplish that the point is I've already implemented that when I click on a marker on a map, if it's needed, I can run a demonstration, but first I need to open the code. I only have the application running. So the point is that I already do have markers. They are clickable. When I click on a marker, it passes an ID of this specific charger to the file that displays the data. Well, this menu that displays text with information about the charger. But the point is that the text is loaded when the page is loaded. And when I click on the marker and the data is passed, the function, I do not know how to run this function to update the data.
Okay.
Because
I think you are talking about some core React concepts now. So I think there is something wrong with the way how you have constructed the application. So could you share your screen and we can see it in a little bit more detail?
Of course, just give me a minute. I'm opening the...
I will stop my share now.
Visual Code Studio. So yes, I think this will do it. So yeah, the point is, just let me. So I have like map element here.
Is the application running? Can you show it on the browser?
Yes, I just need to log in first.
Okay.
And here, this is one of the mock-up chargers. I mean, the like name is hard-coded. This part is hard-coded. This part is actually taken from one of the chargers. But if I click on them, like if I console log somewhere, I'm using, this left menu is this part. As you can see here, name is taken from a variable. And if I console log here, the char data, which is a variable for an index that is passed, like I can console log it here. In this case, it will console log the specific one that is used in the menu. Just a second, we'll check. It's props the char data, I think. If I refresh the page, I hope it did not crash. Open the console. Yeah, it gave the index of the one that is displayed. I can also console log just to confirm.
If you now click on the charger, what happens?
The variable, the char data itself is changing, but the display is not updated. Like,
what do you mean by that the data is changing? I don't understand.
The variable, char data, well, this exact variable is set to an ID.
It is not showing it in the console.
Because the function is the function is ran when the application is started. This function is launched only when the page is started. It is not relaunched anyhow.
Yeah. So what you are talking about is that about rendering this component, and now the idea is that this component will be rendered again if the props change. So that is
yes, I think so. Yes.
So now the key question is that where is this component, this left menu, where is this used, and where does it get these props? What are the values what are given?
It is used in this content box, and this is like the middle data. Well, the middle page in between, because content box is the parent of both left menu.
What is the left menu? What is the char data?
Left menu is this exact menu on the left that contains the text. This is the element that has all those
So
letters.
if you go to code, what is the char data property? Where is this
Char-
char data now coming? There you have hard-coded it into B2.
Yes, I have it
As you
here.
can see, because it's hard-coded there, it can never change.
But it's not constant.
Well, yes, it is, because it is never changed. It has been here set to 2, so it will never change. You are not changing the char data in anything. Or do you think that or is the idea that because you are passing the char data into the map box and then you are modifying maybe the char data there, that it would be modified here?
I am modifying it, in fact.
Okay, yeah, so that is not the way how things operate in React. And what you are now talking about with this char data, that is a piece of information which should be in the application state. And when we are dealing with data in React, you always pass it down through the props mechanism. But if you modify in a component something what you receive via the props, it does not modify it on the upper levels. If you want to modify some state, you will need to pass a function to the child components, and then that function has been defined so that it can modify the state. So the first thing what you should do is that, where was the left? Where are you keeping the application state in general? That is the first question. Do you have the application state anywhere? Here in this app. So these items, what does the items now represent?
Well, it represents data, well, the chargers, like here.
Okay.
It takes the chargers from the local host.
Okay. So what you could now do here is that you could add here a new state information to represent selected charger. Yeah, and that could now be, for example, null. Okay, and now you would need to define here a function which can be used to modify the selected charger. So you could create a new function. For example, the good name would be set selected charger. And then it would receive a parameter, a single parameter, which would now be the charger what you want to set. So now, since your chargers will be in the items, and that's now an array, so probably you will have an array of objects in the items. So now the idea would be that the selected charger would now be a reference to an object in your items array.
1 second, I'm thinking, because, for example, I'm going to use this function like select charger in here, and here I'm already using item. So it will not be an array, it will be an object.
Yes, but the item is coming from an array items. So what I was saying, that the items is an array of objects.
Yes.
And your new state variable which you created will now basically be a reference to an object in the items array.
Yes.
Okay, so now at line 29, write now the code which is needed to set a new selected charger state variable.
There must be set state.
Yes.
But not this set state. Or is it?
Yes, it is this set state. You're now using a class component, so it's always this.
Set state.
And then an object, and then a selected charger.
Yeah, there is just select charger. And this and parameter.
Yes.
Like this, yes.
Yes. And now this function needs to be passed where you need it.
Yeah, all the way to the map. Yeah,
Yes.
Makes sense.
Yes. And then the selected charger will need to be passed where you need it. So to the left menu.
Yes, yeah.
We can do it here. It takes only a couple of minutes. So
Right. So it's just back to. I think we should look like this, yeah.
yes.
It did not die yet. That's a good thing. Go to the content box. Then this thing must be taken to the map box. No, it's not selected charger. It's called a bit differently. It was set selected charger. Equals props that set selected charger.
Yes.
If I'm right,
Yes.
something like this. Then I go here. That is a little bit complex, you know. Probably more complex than necessary, but
yeah.
This is something that was necessary for implementing Google Maps properly. Okay, now I'm here. Now, on marker click, I suppose I should pass the third thing here.
Okay, on marker click now.
I must add the function, like what is.
No, you don't need to add it there because the item is now probably, or I don't know what these two parameters are. So it's
the item is
item
an
is
element
item.
of an array. Yeah, makes sense. And the data is this variable, like char data, but I suspect we don't need it.
So now in that line 12,
yes,
you can now call from this .props, this set selected. Yeah, and now you put the data there in, not the data, but the item.
Item, yes.
And that's it. And then next step is to use the actual state variable. Now you have only set, but you are not using it anywhere.
Yes, it
So
must be used.
You know,
must be passed to the left menu, and then it must be used there.
Yes.
So left menu, I will erase char data later, do some cleanup. Wait, it's not
before
passed
this,
yet.
You need to go to app.
Yes, that's what I thought. Okay.
And the content box.
Yes, I know.
Pass it there.
I just saw that I accidentally made one blank space, and I just wanted to check if I did not break anything. Okay, so we have a variable select the charger. Yeah, select the charger. Yes, that's select.
It's this .state.
Oh yes, exactly. Okay, that's state that select the charger.
Yes.
Must be like this.
Yes.
Here. Looks. This goes to left menu. So
yeah.
select the charger equals props. That select the charger.
Yeah.
Resave it. Go to left menu.
And now here.
Here. Just a second. So it is an object, right? So I replace not the char data. It must be now different. Just a second. Let me check.
Yeah, well, you could use it directly if the item that you are passing there, if it has those fields.
Oh wait, I'm just checking because I'm trying to find out if it's well. I could just console log and see what it is, but I suppose it is.
You can check it. It's better than supposing.
Yeah. So I could just log. Select the chart.
Props dot.
Yes. It's not good.
Okay.
It must be here. It won't say it because this thing is. this function is ran when the object is rendered, and when it is rendered, we did not select anything yet. So if we want to find it out, we need to place this thing here, but without.
Yeah, either one works.
With or without probes. Okay. Opening
No,
this.
no. You need to have now the item. No. Here you log only the item, because that is what you are now passing to the set selected charger.
Okay, item.
Okay,
Wait a second.
Yeah, there is not a problem with the binding of this.
Yeah. Wait, these props is undefined. Why is it so?
Yeah, it's now because of how you have defined the functions and how the binding of this is operating. This is something what we discussed in the classes. So there are a couple of ways how you can resolve on the binding of this. Do the other people remember who are also here present? What's the problem here?
Was it an arrow function for the in the app.js for when you're setting the state?
Yeah, so it's about how the keyword this is being used, and now how the function has been defined at line 20 and line 28 here, and also the same thing in the map box. So they are defined as normal functions, and the keyword this does not refer to the object of the class automatically. It will do it so if you're using arrow functions. That was one of the main points of the arrow functions. Or you can also alternatively use the bind method of an property in a constructor function. But what I suggested is that you use the arrow function syntax. So how you would modify this is that you would write at line 10, you would write on marker click and then equals.
Sorry, where exactly?
After the
yeah.
So
okay.
So the on marker click will now be a class method. Yeah, so like that. But now take away the first parentheses. You already have them. The item and data is correct, and take away the arrow symbol as well, and the arrow function symbol will be there. Yes. So now.
And the same thing must be done in left menu.
Yes, and set the on marker click to be constant now. So const on marker click.
Yes.
Like so.
Wait, no. That does not work because we are in a class.
Okay, maybe I remember wrong. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So now you can check it out. Okay, it will maybe give you an error because of the set state in the
left menu
app in the app.
Oh, okay.
So the component did mount has now the same thing, and then the set selected charger has the same thing. So you should write these as arrow functions.
Yes, I see it now. So it must be done like
equals.
Yes, equals. Then here, arrow function.
Yes.
Like this.
And then the same thing for the component did mount. Same thing for the component did mount.
Isn't it already like having an arrow function? Because this part is working just fine.
Okay, yeah, maybe it's then on how it has been called. Okay, yeah.
All right, so
now you see there the object. What kind of data do you have there? So this is now a Google Map object, marker object.
Yes, for some reason.
So it seems that this is not what you want to actually pass in. So can you go back to your code, and how does it look in here in the map?
Item.
These props items. So what is the structure of this items array?
Well, basically an array with an objects in it.
Also, if you go back to your map,
Yes.
there at line 26, you have a marker which is not based on the same.
Yeah, it was a mock-up marker. I just used it when I was
So
creating those.
where is that one located? Did you click on the mock-up marker?
Unlikely. I can erase it just so I do not click on it accidentally, but it still gives.
You clicked on the mock-up marker actually.
Okay, yeah, makes sense.
Okay, yeah. So now you can see
So,
this is the data what you have now in the item.
yeah, and this is an object. So we found it out.
Yeah. So all that code what you have there from line 6 to line 22, to me it seems that it's unnecessary.
Yes, it becomes unnecessary now. So I can take this away. Could erase those variables because they will say that they're undefined and break everything. Now,
Now you write props and then the name.
Yes, props. I was just trying to remember the name. It was selected charger. Yes. That thing. It's props. Yes. It is null.
Yes.
It was not set back.
Yes, because your selected charger is now set to null here in the app.
Yes, and this thing was actually launched. Oh wait, yeah, it was not launched. So it needs.
So you need to deal with the initial state. There are a couple of ways how you can do that.
If
one way would be so that you simply return null here if the prop selected charger is null. So you are not rendering anything.
Yeah, but that would require me to create an if statement in every variable there.
No, but I mean in this whole function that you would not return this div structure at all.
Yes, yeah.
You would return empty if the prop selected charger is null.
No.
So that's one way how you could deal with it. Another way would be so that you could set some initial values in the app.
I thought about that, but I'll make it like this. If it's not null, then it does return it. I could make an initial value, but in that case, I would actually need to select one of the items. And the point is that when I replace the data that we have now, the mockup data with the real one, I will have to replace it again. And in the case, for example, theoretically, I have that data changeable, like some chargers are deleted, some chargers are replaced. And if by accident, if we're theoretically speaking, I have a bigger app that allows to change the amount of charger there. So if I accidentally delete the initial charger, it will break everything, and I will have to, a programmer will have to remember that, yeah, there was an initial one and it must be replaced. So I think perhaps just leaving it empty would be. So returned. Okay. I think I know how to work around this thing. We'll make it like this, I guess. So yeah, go outside of this thing, return, make this. Now here we erase return, make let, no, not let, just output equals this thing. Go down here, closing tag. No,
it needs to be normal brackets.
Just ordinary brackets like those ones.
Yes, yeah, but that will start and stop the JSX.
Okay.
And the output should be a null, not an object.
No.
Yes.
Return here output. Well, it kind of fixes one thing. Yeah, well, those are not displayed yet. But at the beginning, it breaks. Yeah, it is another problem. I think I know how to fix that. So yeah.
Yeah.
Now at least I have the main thing, but yeah, thank you.
Yeah, but this was a good question because basically, when you're writing a React application and you find yourself wondering, for example, that okay, how can I monitor some variable like Dimitri was wondering, then that should be a warning bell saying that okay, now there is something which I have done incorrect and not done in the so-called React way. Because in React you always should be dealing with application state, passing down these props, be they direct data or then functions to modify the state. And when you modify the state, then it will trigger rendering of the components which are depending on that state. But yeah, I think it was a good question, and that, it's good that we got it solved out. Maybe it helped also some other people. It's very easy to get confused on how you should pass the data in a React application, at least in the beginning. Any other questions? Have everybody managed to start with their applications? Hello, yes, I can hear you, but it's quite faint voice.
Yeah, because of my mic, my headphone is nearly broke, so I'm trying to speak.
Okay.
So
what's up?
I started to make a map, but I have problem on rendering the marker, and this doesn't work.
Okay.
So I can show it here.
Yeah, please do.
Okay, one second. So it's here. Can you see my screen now?
Yes.
So it's here, and this is the map I have. Oh.
Okay.
So I this is the map function, and this is where I take the API, and that is the API that you gave us, and in here we have from OpenChart, and I'm using Axios for it. And from here I create a function for it, and I set state, and when I have the response, I store it in the sets data in the sets data, and from it's no more. And this is I use this instead of component did mount, because this have the same functionality.
Yes, this is now with the hooks. Okay.
Yeah, and when I store the data, I map it over, and I pass in a new variable, and this is the properties.
Where is the charger? Where has that been set?
Oh, it's in a new variable. I pass it.
Okay, yeah, okay, you have mapped there. Okay.
Okay, and it's the array show off, but the marker is not showing off, so I'm kind of confused.
So have you tried of displaying a marker with hard-coded values?
No, I haven't.
Okay,
No.
I would suggest that you would try to do that first, so that outside of this map thing, you would create one marker, like Dimitri had, this hard-coded test marker.
Okay.
So yeah, before the data map, add a new line and see there. Can you get this single marker to show? And then if you can, then you can compare that. What is the difference with
position? So ng. So I can take the position of Olu. So let's save and oh.
I'm only seeing now your Visual Studio Code. So
And in the chat, Lasse is saying that it's not log, it's a
LNG. No, LNG is there. I think it's lat.
Oh, it's that. Okay.
and then LNG, the log part.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry. Oh yeah, yeah. Now it's working now.
And it was the same in the, like when you had the marker in the map thing, then there was also that LNG was locked, so that maybe was an issue.
Okay. Now I'm gonna try that. Oh yeah. This is lat and this is LNG. So. No, it's another problem.
So was it showing?
No, it's not showing. But the marker, the hardcore marker it is showing. So now, okay.
If the hard-coded marker is not showing, maybe there is one problem also that you have.
No, the hardcore marker.
I mean the database marker. You have there the position at prop at line 41. You have it with capital P. So probably that also has some effect.
Oh, okay. So yeah, now it's showing. But if I this and I'm oh yeah now it show. Thanks.
Okay, yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, it's really must be careful with those letters.
With the small detail. Yeah, I think.
Yeah. Okay, but good that you got it sorted out.
Okay.
Sorry to break into the question that both me and Hui had in mind. I discussed it with him. When using Google Maps React, you are using your Google API key, and it is very unsafe to just put it on GitHub, but I do not really know how to secure it so it is still used but not displayed in GitHub, so it cannot be misused by anyone else. Like how to secure it.
Don't put it to GitHub.
Sorry, can I speak a bit?
Yeah.
Because when we are searching in the YouTube with some guy, the senior the developer, they usually create an environment 5 and they put an API key in there. and they connect with it, through that file. But I tried that, but I failed. So it wasn't connect. So I don't know what's the problem, but they said that for the security reason, so not to expose your API to the source code.
Yeah. So it is not a good thing to put your API keys to GitHub. So one option is indeed to do it so that you put it into environment variable and then read it from there. Or you could have it in a separate JSON file, which you then require in your application. And then this JSON file, you have it listed in the git ignore so that it never gets tracked by Git. That is one way of how you can do it. And of this, there was an example in one of my repositories. I can show you. It was with the, or actually I have not shown this one to you, but this, for example, here I can put a screen share. This was with another class, another course, but so the environment is totally fine. Then you will need to add the key to environment. How to do that? Well, that always depends a little bit on the operating system in question. So here is one of my repositories, which is dealing about this API authentication. And let's see, here is, where is it? Here. So here is an example on how you can require a local JSON file. So here is a require, and then this file would be required. This is now a JSON file. It is then known like this, and then you can use the data in the file however you want. And then this file has been added to git ignore. So jvt-key, it is here, but it never gets tracked. So the logic is that when you clone this repository, you will then have to create a new file with that name and the file structure. Since it is JSON file, it's always an object, and then you can have there just like this, or it could be your, and then like so. So when you have your file like this, for example, constants or keys.json, and then in your code, you have then, for example, keys equal require keys.json, like so, and then you can use it, keys, and then Google API key. Like so, you can then access the value of the key from this file. So this is one way how you can deal with it. Or alternatively, you can use it in the environment. But then, as I said, then you will need to set the key to the environment, and how to do that depends a little bit on the operating system. It's a bit different on Windows than in OS X and other Linux-based systems. But that is totally valid solution as well. This one also works. You have a JSON file which you do not track. It is in the git ignore. The structure is something like this, and then when you need it, you require it. And then you have it there. Like so, you can use it. So that's one of the ways. And Anthony is writing in the chat about the environment key. So that's also how you can use it. Yeah, but it is true that you should not put your API keys to GitHub. People have written tools which automatically go through GitHub repositories and try to find any keys from there. and quite a lot of those have usually been found by those automated tools. Yeah, okay. Any other questions?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
So I have a question, which is, so I've been using this leaflet map, and I have a question which is very specific to this leaflet map.
Okay.
Maybe I can show it.
Yeah.
So wait, how do I do? Okay, like, can you see my
Yes.
my screen?
Yes.
So my problem is I only have like mockup markers, but my problem is I can click the marker itself and then does some view.
Yeah.
But if I click this tooltip, nothing happens. And so if I like add an on click on the tooltip, okay, why is it not work? Oh yeah, because I have like in the.
So what happens? You have tested this already.
Yeah. The problem is nothing happens. So I have the on click on the tooltip, and it still doesn't work. And I think it is very specific to this leaflet map. But I wanted to ask, maybe someone has like found a solution how can like make like this name clickable. So
have you checked that is anything happening if you, or is the click event?
I mean,
is the click event firing?
No, it is not firing. So that's my problem. Like the click event is not firing, but I don't really know why, because like if I do the same on click on like the marker, then like the marker it works. But
what was the component what you are using? Tooltip, was it so?
Yeah, it's like is from this leaflet, some component which you can put inside the marker. So
okay.
I mean,
let's see. So you have a marker and then you have a tooltip. What's the purpose of this tooltip?
Well, the tooltip is like this text box thing.
Small texts.
And like it just displays like, well, without this on click, it would be no, nothing changes without on click. It's like just like this text box, and like it says like here the name, and well, this is just where it is displayed, and like opacity, and okay, this permanent is just like if I take it away, it's like without this text and just appears if I hover over it. But it's basically just like this text box, well, this tooltip thing, and the marker itself is this, I don't know. Yeah, well, marker is blue arrow thing, because like
what happens if you go to your code here? Yeah, now you have the tooltip is a component, and then you have written the charger name there as to be the child of that component. Can you put HTML or these JSX elements inside a tooltip?
Here, you mean here? I don't know. I haven't tried.
So can you put, for example, wrap the charger name with an, for example, H1 element, so to be heading level 1.
Okay. I'll try.
Let's see. No, outside the curly brackets.
All right.
Sorry, Tobias, I'm just reading the leaflet documentation. For the tooltip, it's only to display the small text, but there's another component above the tooltip in the documentation called pop-up. And when you click on that, it pops up. I think that's might be what you're looking for.
No.
Pop-up information.
Well, I know this pop-up, but well, I could like, I think it's also like, is it written like this?
Yeah.
If you want it
Let's
to be
see.
so, here it says about the pop-ups is that it should only be
no.
one
It's not
pop-up
defined.
open
Okay,
at the same time. So if you want to have multiple of them open, so go on and try
something
with
isn't working.
what you had now with the.
Yeah, sorry for confusing us.
Yeah, but I tried with pop-up and I got a similar problem. Like the problem is well, so this seems to work like with the H1 component.
Yeah. Okay. So now put the H1. Put an click handler there.
All right. Okay. Let's see. No, still not.
Is it firing?
I can, I'll just, instead of like a console log something.
Console.
And log, let's see. No. Yeah, and that's my problem. Like if I have an on click on this tooltip, but nothing happens, and I don't understand why. Because like I have the same on click on this blue marker, and here it works, and I just don't see where is the difference. Like
Yeah.
I have the on click here and it doesn't work, and I have it here and it works. So I yeah, I'm just not understanding where is the like mistake, or
Probably it is because the tooltip has not been designed to be used like this. So I think there should be some other way of customizing the marker.
Now, I wonder if you try instead of on click on open.
on open. Okay, maybe then I'll do away the permanent thing. Ooh. Also, unopen is not an event handler, no. So
You might have to take it out of the H1 tag though, and put it in as
oh, right,
the property
of
there,
course,
the way you had it.
Yeah, of course, doesn't work with one. Let's see, here's the other H1. No, wait, where should I? Wait, now I'm confused. Where do I have the on open?
Yeah, so you had it as on click above
Oh, right.
the offset.
Wait a moment. So I go back, and now we can here the on open, make it like this. Still not working? Why is it not working?
There's one bracket missing on the on open, the last curly bracket.
All right.
Yeah, I think this executes when the tooltip opens. So
Yeah.
the main idea of the tooltip is so that it's.
All right. Yeah. Okay. Now the problem is like it just opens like something and.
Okay, I read a little bit about the tooltip, about leaflet documentation, and basically what you are looking for is that you should create a custom icon. You are now using the default icon
right
for your markers, and the default icons are as you see, and then now you're trying to use a tooltip and pop-up basically against how they have been designed. So if you want to show a marker with text, then what you want to do is to create a custom marker.
Okay.
And I cannot share a screen at the same time, so I will put that link to the chat. So if you can open that link.
Where's my chat? I don't see the chat. Where's chat? Oh, don't have chat right now. Here's chat. Okay. So
Okay, there you have the marker open. There is the dynamic property called icon. So to that property, you could define now a new leaflet icon. And then if you go, I will put a new link to the chat. There is on the leaflet documentation. So here is now an example on how to create this kind of div icon, for example, which is using a simple div, and then you can create whatever HTML you want inside there. And there are other icon examples as well. So, so you should create now a custom icon, and then to that custom icon you can then provide, or should be able to provide, this on click and also the text what you want to have. So in essence, you can create an icon to look exactly how you want, instead of trying to compose it from the default icon plus the tooltip.
Okay, I actually had another question, because in the, where is it? Okay, wait, maybe where this on. I had another question, because if, no, where is it? Okay. There was this requirement about having a like activation code or something, and I didn't really understand what my requirement is. So what I have right now is like you have to enter some code, and then only then you can like start the charging process. But I didn't understand like what was the requirement. Is it like this, like you enter code and then you can start charging, or how was this requirement meant? Like what is it meant to do? I didn't understand it.
Yes, it is like that. So the idea of this ID code is that you drive with your car to this charger station, and depending on the station, let's say that there are eight cables in this station. So 8 cars can connect to the same station or to stations right next to each other. So when you are using the mobile application, you must have some way of identifying that which charger cable you are now going to be using, right?
Okay, so I can imagine like it's like on the physical locations, like
yes,
on like the fuel pump thing, it's like written in.
Yes, instead of being a fuel pump,
so
it's an electric cable.
Yeah, I don't know what's the name for electric fuel pump thing. So
yeah. So there is an identification that this is now, for example, A4CV. This is A5CV. This is A6CV. So when you see the sticker on the station on the cable,
okay,
this is A4,
yeah, good. Then I understood correctly, because I was not sure, like in our app, how should we get this?
Yeah.
So I just took this code for everything for now.
Yeah. So the idea is that in real life there would be a sticker, so it would be printed on the station.
Yeah. Okay. Then yeah.
So then you can confirm that.
Yeah, but because I didn't know, like for now I have just like asked the server, like somewhere I have like, I don't know. Can you still see my? So I've somewhere like asked the server, and then like the server compares like, okay, is this code which you sent me? Yeah, here you sent me the same like what I do I have in like my database or whatever. Like I don't have a database yet, but like, so and then I just like sent back, okay, yeah, you gave me the right code, and then I can start charging, like, and maybe like error code if I wrong.
Yes.
So that was my idea, and I just wanted to ask, like, did I understand this correctly? So
yeah, because in a map, basically a single marker can represent multiple charge stations. So like it's like if you think about it, in a traditional gas station, you have a single gas station in a single address, right? But there are multiple pumps, pump number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4, and so on.
Okay, now I get it.
Yeah, so in the map, it would make no sense to show individual markers for all the pumps, but you would show a marker for the station. And then when you are at the station using the mobile application, you know now that, okay, now I am at the correct station, but what is the pump or the connector now, which I'm starting to use.
Okay, so this is okay, because I thought it's like authentication, like am I allowed to use it? Like, okay, so it's also for identifying which pump I'm using. Okay, so
Yeah.
good.
Yeah.
I'll do that. Good.
Yeah.
Good. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, but I think that the problem with your marker will be solved if you try to create a custom icon with the div icon.
Yeah, I mean, it can't be too hard because like the on-click is already working for the marker, so maybe it's not too much work.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
I think you will get it working.
What?
I think you will get it working.
Yeah, I also think so. Like I mean, I already have the on-click event and it is working, so I only have to like add it to like the tooltip or like custom marker or whatever.
Yeah, yeah. And also quick Googling shows I found this kind of article, leaflet custom icons. So,
oh, okay.
So it is possible to do different kinds of icons and customize them.
Okay, yeah, I'll maybe read this and then
Yeah.
Good. Yeah, okay, thank you.
Okay. Good questions. Anything else? If not, then we'll have the tutoring session again on Thursday and then next class on Friday. For the Friday classes and for the remainder of the classes, we don't have, or I don't have anything new content to teach. I think we have covered now all the aspects. So basically all the remainder classes what we have, they are tutoring classes where we can discuss about your problems and I can try to help you. And I will be there on time when the class starts as scheduled. But if there are no people for, let's say, for the first 15 or 30 minutes, then I will not be sitting around in the Zoom room waiting that if somebody maybe comes in after 3 hours or so. So if you want help on those lesson times, then come there when the class starts, and then we can go from there. And then if you want to keep working on for the duration of the lesson, so the 4 hours on Friday, then I will stick around. But if there is nobody present when the class begins or the session begins, then I will not be hanging around for too long. So that's just so that you know how it operates. All right. I guess that's it for today then. We'll continue then on Thursday. Have a nice day, and hopefully you can find some time to continue with your exercise. Bye.